Hello everybody, welcome back to Circuit Park Zandvoort. We're just on the Dutch North Sea coast in the sand dunes, a few hundred metres from the water, in one of the most historic European Grand Prix circuits of them all. Last Formula One Grand Prix held here back in 1975, 1-2 for McLaren. In those days, McLaren tag Niki Lauda, who went on to win the title by half a point, beating teammate Alain Prost then and in the championship. Today, though, it's the second race weekend here for the WTCR series, the World Cup, and the fourth race weekend of the season. You just saw the blue Cyan Racing Lincoln Co's heading towards the front of the grid. They were the dominant force in qualifying after being there or thereabouts in free practice. They seem to have found another second or so in qualifying, and WSC, the group that arranges the rules and regulations for the TCR series, has stepped in immediately. They've had a power reduction and weight added to the cars before this race since qualifying, so we'll have to wait and see just how much of a difference that makes. But we're on board with our poleman, Ted Björk, the dominant force by a few thousandths over his teammate Ivan Muller as they start 1, 2, 3, and in fact they qualified 1, 2, 3, 4 on the grid.
Everything okay from your side, Ted? Have you done the fourth gear ramp?
Yes, I've done the fourth gear ramp. Did a practice start, obviously you can check it. I thought there was a lot of wheel spin in the second phase. And then I went ahead, also to check the entrance after turn 2 into turn 3. If the throttle didn't come off, really, so just check that on the data, please.
Interesting little conversation between Ted Björk there and Ron Hartfeld. We'll come back to that in a moment, but let's have a look at how the cars line up. It was a dominant 1, 2, 3, 4 in qualifying for Cyan Racing Lincoln Co. Ted Björk and Ivan Muller on row 1, and their teammates Cyan Performance Lincoln Co. Andy Prieur and Jan Erlaché qualified 3rd and 4th. Where's Erlaché gone? You'll find out. Mikel Ascona starts 4th as a result, the only Cupra in the top 10. Then there's an all-Volkswagen row with Benny Leuchter and Johan Christoffersen. They're 5th and 6th. Teammate Mehdi Benani is in 8th. Where's Rob Huff? You'll find out. Jean-Carl Vernet is 7th, the only Audi in the top 10. There's Erlaché, 5-spot grid penalty for misdemeanors in qualifying, basically causing Farfus to crash. Nicky Katzberg, the only Hyundai in the top 10. He's in 10th. Norbert Mikkelis is teammate 12th. Frederick Vervisch won a race last weekend. He's 11th. Daniel Hegloff, he had a 5-place grid penalty for contact with Hupp in race 3 in Slovakia, so he goes down to 13th ahead of Esteban Guerrieri, Aurelian Panis and Augusto Farfus, who didn't get a final qualifying run in. Neither did any of the Hondas, actually. They were all just about to set good times when teammate Thiago Montero went off. So Niels Langeveld, the Dutchman, Nestor Girolami down in 18th. He's got a 3-place grid job as well. Gabriele Tarquini 19th. Tom Coronel, a very frustrated 20th, ahead of Attila Tassi. Marcin Kwa in 22nd, our race winner last race in Slovakia. Gordon Shedden 23rd, ahead of Kevin Chacon, who, like his teammate, got 2 podiums for Alfa in Czechoslovakia. Thiago Montero brought out the red flags in qualifying, therefore lost his time. Rob Huff, engine change, back of the grid. So 4 penalties, 3 for driving offences and 1 for that engine change, have altered the grid. Nevertheless, what doesn't alter Richard Coleman is that Cyan Racing Lincoln Co., having been ish in the top 10 in first free practice, moved to the top in second free practice and left everybody half a second behind in the qualifying session. Well, let's hear from Tom Coronel next.
Thank you. Welcome, guys. At the track who has been in the news the last week just because of we got a Formula One race here in Zandvoort. I think really nice to know, and of course very good for us as Dutch people. A lot of crowd today. It's one of the biggest events in the Netherlands, so it's good that the WTCR is present also at this big show, because also Max Verstappen is driving today and tomorrow for a demo with his Red Bull Formula One car, which of course is really good to see, especially for the Dutch crowd. The races, yeah, WTCR, wow. The last 2 races has been amazing. I mean, for a touring car driver like me, I mean, I'm just beginning with motorsports. I'm just racing since 29 years, but mamma mia, how tough they were. Especially the races, everybody was battling with each other, a little bit of touching, reasonably clean, I suppose. But until now, I think it's one of the best seasons I've ever seen. Top drivers on the grid, champions, and as you see, the winner of last race is on the back. The ones who were in the back are now in the front. Tarquini, the champion, is next to me here on the grid. So it's amazing. I mean, anything can happen. You could be P20 or maybe even P2. So I have to push for tomorrow. This morning qualification was a little dodgy. Me and Erlacher came out of the pit, and Erlacher just didn't see Farfus, and Farfus just went for it, and he was like a pinball through the guardrail. It was. I was a little bit in shock. I thought the car was completely destroyed, but finally he drove back to the pit, and luckily they repaired the car, so that's a good one. Guys, enjoy the race here in Zandvoort. I will do my best with my DHL Cupra, trying to go a little bit more forward, because P20, nah, that I don't like. Thanks.
Tom Coronel, the showman, as ever, living up to his reputation and giving a pretty good assessment of the season so far, I think. It was bright and sunny on the grid, Richard Coleman. Ideal conditions for the fans. What about in terms of racing? How much does a hotter track affect the cars here? I mean, it's a bit of a high tyre wear circuit anyway.
It certainly is. There's lots of high-speed flowing sections, but not that much that's completely straight. So therefore, the tyre is always doing something, and therefore it is one of the higher tyre wear circuits. Also, it's one of the circuits that has a high degree of circuit evolution, and being so close to the North Sea and all these sand dunes that you'll see in the wide panning shots, we have a lot of dust and sand that blows across the circuit. So it's very, very difficult for the engineers to dial in the cars to this particular circuit. But yes, as you said, Martin, it's normally pretty high tyre wear here.
This was a tough circuit last year for Hyundai. They didn't score a single point across 4 cars in 3 races. Nicky Katzberg, who was on pole in both qualifying sessions a week ago in the Slovakia ring, he qualified 10th in the first qualifying session. In fact, he didn't qualify 10th. He's got 10th because of penalties ahead of him. Jan Erlacher qualified 4th, should be starting on row 2, but that penalty, as Tom described, go and have a look at Tom Coronel's internet feeds, particularly his YouTube reporter qualifying. It's got onboard footage there. He and Erlacher had just come out of the pits, had just come out of Tarzan, the first right-hand corner. Erlacher was having a bit of a weave, and Farfus was fully committed on a blazing hot lap. Had to swerve between the other 2 cars, and Erlacher having a weave over to the right as Farfus tried to go around his right. Basically, Farfus ended up in the barriers on the right and then going straight off, which explains why he'd gone straight off at a corner that we thought you couldn't possibly go straight off on. So that's Erlacher, got a penalty really for not watching his mirrors. Nestor Girolami got a 5-place penalty for overtaking under the red flags that followed the demise of Thiago Monteiro into the gravel. So that was unfortunate for him as well. Well, Mehdi Banani in his Golf qualified well for the first time this season, and he's in 8th position. Two real stories in the top 10 on our first grid here in Zandvoort, Richard Coleman. One is how strong Lynk & Co have gone. I mean, as Tom said, from last to first, basically, they've gone from propping up the grid. Literally, the final 3 cars on all of the grids were Lynk & Co cars, and now all 4 of them ahead of everybody else. And they were 7/10 clear of the next closest car. Another 7/10 went from 5th position down to 22nd. I mean, that's how far away they were.
Yeah, and they've had their collars felt by the rule makers since qualifying, which is a very unusual step. That's hardly ever happened in this new era of touring car racing. But I think it was the right thing to do. Slovakia ring, the last circuit, last time out, perhaps not a circuit that suits their car, whereas here with their long wheelbase, these high-speed corners where you need a lot of stability, you would expect it to, but that combined with the power increase they had, they were 7/10 clear of everybody, and the rule makers came down pretty quickly and said, actually, you're going back to where you were, guys, and now it's a bit of a mystery. So we've got a front row of cars that we don't really know the true pace of.
And actually, they probably don't really know either, because this won't be a sort of power output and a weight that they've used in pre-season testing, and they didn't test here either. So a little bit of an unknown. The other factor we just saw there, Mehdi Banani and Johan Kristoffersson, and they're not alone, Benny Leukner, all in the top 10 in qualifying, in a Volkswagen Golf that couldn't find pace with a map, a torch and Google Maps open for the first 3 race weekends. And we know the reason why now. They were using what is going to be a mandatory ECU on all cars next year to try and get understanding of it and to try and work with it a little bit better. Turns out it's not ready for racing yet, it would appear, and so last weekend they went back to one that they know works, because it works in the Audis, works in the Cupras, and it worked in their cars last year, and suddenly they've got the pace. And the only car that hasn't is Rob Huff. His car was about a second down in Sector 1 alone, so he's had an engine change, he's at the back of the grid. But Volkswagen have got to be looking at a better race weekend, haven't they?
They certainly have. They're of course 30 kilos lighter here, which will also help their story of pace. But ultimately, I think the thing is, these guys need to show some restraint. They've got to get some points. Yeah. Volkswagen Motorsport have had a miserable season, all things considered, so far this year. But of course, when you've been down in the doldrums and really, really struggling, and you find yourself potentially fighting for a podium place, it's very easy just to get that white line fever, because you need the glory. You've just been so miserable to date, but those guys really need to try and get points on the board.
Well, for the Volkswagen drivers, and equally for Andy Priaulx, the problem for Priaulx is, he's on the second row of the grid, best qualifying he's had in his return to touring car racing, but he's got 2 teammates in front of him. He can't even barge his way through. He's going to have to mind his P's and Q's. But he's the one who's vulnerable to attack now, because unless Björk and or Muller fluff their starts, he's going to be the third of 3, going at who knows how fast or how slow. And suddenly you've got behind him 4th place on the grid, Mikel Ascona in the Cupra. Been on the podium already this season. Very happy to race wheel to wheel with multiple world champions, and won here last year in TCR Europe. Then you've got the next row, the 2 Volkswagen boys who desperately need points. Volkswagen Motorsport, with all 4 cars, have fewer points in total than Marcinkoir, so they really need something. Ivar Muller, long way back in the points. I mean, needs to beat Ted Björk. Can't, it's the same old story. Can't keep finishing behind your teammate. He needs to win here. He's got a chance, they've all got a chance, but he needs it more than Ted Björk needs it.
Certainly does, but I still think Ivan Muller and Andy Priaulx, with 7 world championships between them, they're pretty experienced old hands. I don't see them necessarily making the mistakes. Also, the leadership within Cyan is probably a little bit stronger in terms of joined up thinking. So I think if there's going to be anybody sort of trying to perhaps overextend while they're at the sharp end, I expect maybe Leukner or Kristoffersson. Of course, Kristoffersson very experienced, but not necessarily the front running of touring car racing.
No, GT racer and Super Cup racer, and of course double rallycross champion, but less of a front-wheel drive touring car exponent. Ted Björk, he's become a front-wheel drive touring car exponent, hasn't he, over the years? Again, another man who started out like Ivar Muller, like Andy Priaulx, like so many of them in single-seaters. 2017 world champion, front-runner all last year with the Ivar Muller Racing Hyundais. And he is the best placed of the drivers for Lincoln Co. in the championship. He currently lies in 5th position. And how far is he behind Gabriele Tarquini? 4 points after qualifying. So unless he fails to finish, he'll move up to 4th. And he'll be looking greedily at Norbert Michelis, who is only 10 points ahead. So he could actually move into the top 3 just by having a good start here and getting his nose in front into Tarzan, because that has got to be 3/4 of the job for the blue cars. So the field heads away. Warm, sunny afternoon here at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. Not sure where the big Eurovision party is this weekend. Obviously, none of the Audi teams will need to go from Belgium, Norpoint, as their home nation is known for WRT and Come to You. But I think everybody else will be finding somewhere to watch. Ted Björk on the DHL pole position ahead of teammates Ivan Muller and Andy Prieur. Michele Ascona and the two Goffs are definite flies in the ointment. Don't count out Vernet or Bernani. And can Jan Laché fight his way back up towards the top four where he qualified? Katzberg and Fairvish also winners this season. Hegloff could go quicker. And you know, looking further back, there are guys like Nesta Girolami, the points leader, Tom Coronel and Gabriele Tarquini, who want to work their way forward. And for those with the penalties further back, the Alphas, I'm not sure, going to find much in pace this weekend. Montero should have much more than that, and Huff, with a fresh engine in his Golf, should have much more than that as well. For them, they may not get points today, but particularly for the likes of Huff, making sure that fresh engine works properly before he gets into tomorrow's qualifying and both races could be very important indeed. Nesta Girolami, the points leader by just 2 now after Slovakia ring from Esteban Guerrieri. Guerrieri, his teammate, starts in 14th and he starts in 18th. Nesta, the Hondas were improving when Thiago Monteiro went off and all 3 other Honda drivers lost quicker laps. Nesta Girolami then also had a further 3-place grid drop because he didn't slow down under the red flags quickly enough and actually went past somebody by mistake. So the 3 Sign Racing cars leading the field round, and there's no doubt that they will form up in line astern, and whoever's tail gunner will be the man who is charged particularly, and this may be Andy Prieur, with ensuring an all-Sign Racing podium. If Jan Laché can make progress and make it a 1, 2, 3, 4, that would be a first in WTCR racing. Around the final corner, the Arie Luyendyk bocht, and onto the start-finish straight the field comes, ready for race 1, the 4th race weekend of the TCR World Cup, WTCR series here in the Netherlands. And after failing to impress so far as a whole this year, Sign Racing's new Lincoln Co has dominated in qualifying. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the grid. Penalty for Jan Laché sees him start down on row 5, but the top 3 positions are still all filled by the Sign Racing machines from China.
The Lincoln Co's have always been fast off the line so far this season. One thing to maybe look out for is that quite often the dirty side of the grid, the inside there, is often a little slower away. I said there's sometimes a fine grain of sand from all the dunes that blows across. So the lane on the left there is a lot cleaner than the lane on the right, and sometimes we've seen cars get a poor getaway on that side.
8 World Championships, or 8 World Touring Car Championships in the first 3 places on the grid. 1 down in 19th and 1 more in 26th. Green flag waves at the back of the field. We're at Zandvoort in the Netherlands for race 1 of the weekend. Race weekend number 4 of the WTCR series. Away we go. Ted Björk on the right-hand side of your screen makes a good start. Ivan Muller will tuck in behind Andy Prieur, trying to hold off Michele Ascona. He doesn't. Ascona gets through into 3rd already, and around the outside, number 14, that's Johan Kristoffersen. He's gone from the inside to the outside to go the long way round. Tarzan trying to take 3rd, can't. Trying to stay in front of Prieur, should do. Right behind him, 25, Mehdi Bernani. So a very poor start, I'm afraid, for Benny Leuchter. He's already down behind Nicky Katzberg, who started 10th. Leuchter was in 5th position on the grid. So the Volkswagen did not make a good start. There's Tom Coronel, the local Dutch driver. He started down in 20th place. He's looking to make ground. And Johan Kristoffersen holding off Prieur. No, Prieur gets back inside as they start the climb through the Slottermacherbot, and then down through the corkscrew right-hander at Skyflak, over the brow again and down into the tight right-hander at Masters. And this is now the return leg. The old circuit goes off on the left-hand side through the sand dunes, the old Grand Prix circuit. And now we turn into the tight right-hander at corner 9, left at corner 10. And it was the perfect start, Richard Coleman, for Ted Björk and Ivan Muller. Andy Priaulx a little bit thrown to the lions there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Priaulx not getting away well, and did very, very well on that opening lap to stay as brave and committed as he was to limit the damage. He'd lost 2 places clean off the line, but they were side by side for half the lap.
Well, Priaulx not yet the greatest front-wheel drive starter. His only other series of front-wheel drive touring car racing back in 2002. Since then, everything he's raced, and before then, everything he'd raced has been rear-wheel drive. Down right at the tail of the field, Kevin Chacon shuffled right back. Man who had 2 podiums last weekend. There's Pauline in the white cap at the back, watching Tom Coronel behind Niels Langeveld. That's an all-Dutch affair. And across the line, Björk, Muller, Ascona. Ascona was always going to be the real threat to Andy Priaulx, completing the clean sweep on the podium. Priaulx's 4th, Christopherson, Bernani in the 2 Golfs, then Erlaché up to 7th from 10th on the grid. He got ahead of Jean-Carl Vernet, and Nicky Katzberg got ahead of Benny Leuchter as well. We're on board with Frederik Verwisch, and Verwisch just outside the top 10. That was the view of the back of Leuchter's Golf. There you can see Daniel Hegloff with a white stripe down his grey car. That's 14th. He's got Guerrieri in front in 13th. And Girolami a couple of cars back in 16th position. There he goes.
Interestingly enough, Priaulx having to go defensive on the start-finish straight. Of course, they've lost their straight line speed advantage from qualifying, and already having to go defensive at this early stage of the race. I think the Lincoln Coast could be quite vulnerable if people can get near them on the straight.
Later in the race, the Hondas may come on strong. They've trimmed the car out with negative wing. Lost a bit of tyre grip already. Well, contact there. Aurélien Panis down the inside of him. Augusto Farfus, the number 8. Hyundai, he moves up. Nestor Girolami goes with him, so Girolami gets by Panis as well. So Panis loses 2 places down to 17th. Girolami in 16th. Not yet, but before the race, Esteban Guerrieri had his wing set at 0, and Nestor Girolami's at -2, so to generate lift on the straight, basically on the back, to try and make it quicker in a straight line. For this reason, as you come out of the Arie Luijendijk corner, then you get onto the long front straight down to Tarzan, and look at the effect it's having already. Guerrieri in the slipstream as Priaulx tries to hold off Christopherson and Bernani. Leuchter has come up the order ahead of Frederik Verwisch and Nicky Katzberg. And was there a move? No. It looks like Guerrieri didn't get through. Attila Tassi on the inside in car number 9 of Tom Coronel. Again, the Hondas and the Cupras have been, wherever we've been this year, Richard, they've been very competitive, and they're not yet fully out of the picture either.
Definitely not, and you see on the straights Ascona starting to reel in the lead too, and both these Golfs are solidly on the exhaust pipe of Andy Priaulx. I think the Lincoln Co cars are still pretty well balanced through the corner, but they're definitely struggling on the straight.
Yeah, the deal is they were running at 100% power after the disappointments of Slovakia-ring. They're now down back to where they were, 97.5% power, and they're carrying another 30 kilos in the race that they weren't carrying in qualifying. Now, on lap 1 and 2, apart from when you're getting away from the line, that doesn't matter. On lap 10, 11 and 12, then that definitely does matter. The further you get into the race, the more effect that extra bit of weight has on the tyres.
You can see this is a great shot. Looking back from Ivan Muller's car, and yeah, he's right with him, isn't he? That's for sure. Yeah. And you know, even if somebody walks away from you at 1-2 miles an hour, they'll soon be away from you pretty quickly. And
exactly,
and that's the only kind of difference you need on the straight.
And you saw how much Priaulx closed in behind Ascona. He's almost closed the gap to that breakaway trio until they get onto the straight. And then the 2 cars in front, Ted Björk, Ivan Muller, they're towing Ascona along with them. He's getting a double tow from those, and they are big and wide, certainly compared to the Cupra, those 2 Lincoln Co's. So he's getting a big hole in the air punch for him, enough to draw up Priaulx and Christopherson and Bernani, and Erlaché is coming with Benny Leuchter and Freddie Verwisch behind him as well.
You still have to be quite brave to make a move work onto the brakes into turn 1, despite the high speed approach, because it's quite banked, there's a lot of rubber down there. The drivers brake incredibly late, and the brake distances are quite short, and therefore you'll be very, very committed and and almost alongside before you get to the corner to really make that move work.
Yeah, you've got to use the full straight, haven't you? But if you are alongside, inside or outside, you can run wheel to wheel. Like turn 2 in Slovakia last weekend, which we saw being used, you have to have confidence in the driver underneath you or outside you, particularly underneath you. But, you know, this is a field full of professionals, so you should have that. Well, it's definitely a lot closer than qualifying would have suggested. Nobody is showing speed 7/10 quicker than anybody else right now. Ted Björk and Ivan Muller leading from Mikel Ascona on lap 4 of 12 in race 1. Into the S's, Ascona's nimble Cupra nibbling at the back almost of Ivan Muller's bumper.
Yeah, Ivan having to take a slightly defensive line already. We're only at third distance into this race, and as we touched upon in the build-up, Martin, this circuit is very high on tyre wear. There's only really one straight of note, and the tyre is always kind of doing something around this lap. A lot of constant radius corners, and I suspect particularly the last 4 laps of this race we'll see a divergence in these cars' ability to live with the worn tyres.
Now, Norby was complaining about his tyres. What's he saying now?
I will get the puncture in a couple of laps. I have very big vibration on the left front. Absolutely no grip.
Well, Norby has just dropped 7 places on that lap. Look, he's just staying out of the way of everybody. And he's clearly, I mean, if they're not getting those buying signals, he is pleading to the team to say, let me come into the pits and do something, because otherwise they're going to end up with a puncture. And again, old school, this is like Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Look at the runoff there isn't. You know, you only need to think back to last year when he made the tiniest contact with Ivan Muller there in Hugenholz, and he was on top of the barriers.
Yeah, very little runoff, and even if it's not a matter of hitting something solid, you see these huge gravel traps, and any touring car going into those is very unlikely to get back out again, just get stuck and beached. So yeah, proper old school circuit here, Martin, as things used to be in the 90s really. But I love that. I love the fact that you know, the driver's mistakes are punished, and it's not for the faint-hearted.
I think he's on the limit, but I'll see if he can go a bit. Okay, we tell them. We tell him.
That was a proper Formula 1 radio message. It would be nice if Ted can push a bit. Which means, come on, I'm the one who's got somebody attacking me for second place. So clearly he's not unworried about Mikel Ascona. I'm sure he thinks he can handle him in a straight fight. I'm not sure he thinks it's going to be quite as straight a fight as that if they get onto the straight with Ascona in a good position.
BOP arguments aside, you know, Ted's leading this race. He's very in control of this race. He knows that we're only at half distance. He's got to look after those front tyres.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to go any faster than he has to. And he knows that Ivan isn't going to do anything silly behind him. He knows that he's his teammate. He knows that we see Norbert Mikulits pull off. No surprise there, given the radio comments we had from him some moments ago. But going back to Ted Björk, he knows that Ivan's not going to attack him and certainly do anything rash. So he's just quite happy controlling the pace of this race. Whereas, of course, Ivan doesn't have that luxury. He's got Mikel Ascona behind him, last year's European champion, trying to make a name for himself. He'd love nothing more than to overtake a 4-time world champion.
Absolutely right. Yeah, Ascona's not minding his P's and Q's for anybody. He's going to race whoever it is, and that's why he's in this field. Why he's been doing so well. Good view on board at the start with the 86 car of Esteban Guerrieri. Norbert Mikulits got away in front of him. I wonder if we see a little bit of contact here, or whether there was just a big lock-up. Norbert was saying he had horrible vibrations. Well, a little nudge into the back of Nicky Katzberg. Niels Langeveld on the outside there. You saw Benny Leuchter from the overhead shot getting a shocking start. And Gabriele Tarquini, now always among the fastest starters in any front-wheel drive car, apparently this time rather too fast. So Tarquini with a 5-second penalty to add to his time for a jump start. Tarquini's down in 18th anyway. This may not be the strongest weekend for Hyundais. Only Nicky Katzberg in the points from the 4 Hyundais. Gabriele is 18th, Augusto 22nd, and Norby has retired to the pits.
Yeah, if you're going to pick up a penalty for a jump start, you want it to be when you're having an off weekend,
yeah,
and you're already out of the points. So disappointing nonetheless, but if the Cabrelli could choose an event, it would probably be this one.
Yeah, or the Nordschleife. Neither are particularly favourites of his after last year, and the Nordschleife never was. Nicky Katzberg really turning his season around. 2 poles last weekend, didn't win either race, but scored strongly in all 3 races. And here he is in the points again. And he was saying that work after they left Hungary basically transformed the car 100%. He said, now I feel I can actually drive it, and he really showed that last weekend. Norbert Michaelis in Hungary, Norbert Michaelis in Slovakia couldn't really get close to him.
Of course, Katzberg, almost certainly would have won race 2 in Morocco had he not had a failure, brake failure at that race. So yeah, if it wasn't for that, I'm sure he'd probably be the lead Hyundai in terms of points.
Indeed, and I think possibly all his problems were as a legacy of that. Now, Gusto Farfus has lost his splitter. Don't forget that the car was damaged in qualifying and pretty much had lost the splitter by that stage. I rather would have thought they'd have changed the whole front end, but in fact you can still see it's being partly held on by gaffer tape, so clearly they haven't. Nicky Katzberg still behind Fredrik Vervisch. Vervisch in 9th. Vervisch did win a race, of course, in Slovakia. He won the first race, drove around Marcin Kła, who took the lead from Nicky Katzberg into turn 1 on lap 1. And Vervisch went by him a couple of laps later without any problem, turning comfortably inside in the drizzle, much tighter than the Alfa could manage. Mar then held on for second, and he ended up winning race 3 of the weekend as well. The first win for the new Alfa Giulietta Veloce. And again, there's only 3 cars in this race right now, aren't there? The 2 Cyan Racing cars and Mikel Ascona. Only one of these 3 drivers. Oh, did Ted Björk win here last year? No, he didn't, did he? No Hyundais.
No,
so
only
one of these drivers has won a race here at Zandvoort, and that's not one of the blue cars. So, Andy Priaulx. Again, in qualifying, we touched on the fact, Richard, that when he was racing in the World Touring Car Championship in the RBM Team BMWs, they spent a lot of time testing here at Zandvoort, so he probably knows this track as well as any other on the planet, and probably better than almost any British track as well, despite having raced there for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, and of course the DTM Championship visit here in testing and in racing. Yep. So yeah, you're right, but he's still got that Golf for company. And if anything, he's dropped off that front group a little bit, I would say. Starting to perhaps struggle a little bit now he's lost the coat.
Ted Björk, Ivan Muller, Mikel Ascona. That's the 1, 2, 3 here in the Netherlands. And we are now on lap 8 of 12. This is the first of 3 races this weekend. Andy Priaulx, there he is in 4th place. Everybody else in 5th. Johan Kristoffersen, 25 Mehdi Banani, then the blue car Jan-Erik Laché. Fredrik Vervisch behind him, Nicky Katzberg, Jean-Carl Vernay's a little behind them. Guerrieri in 12th. Daniel Hegloff up to 13th, Aurelien Panis 14th, and Nestor Girolami in 15th. And then the other 2 Dutch drivers, Neil Langeveld and Tom Carnell, are out of the points in 16th and 17th. You can see Tarquini, Tashi, Shedden, Chacon, Montero from the back of the grid. Mar, Huff, Mikulits and Farfus has had to call it a day for today. And that qualifying incident, as Tom Coronel told us from the grid, for a moment he thought that Farfus was going to have a plane crash. In fact, he glanced off a barrier on the right and then nosed into the barriers on the left-hand side. Just here it was, he caught Laché. But
he's lucky to slow the car down, and that. He also hit the barrier quite square, which also helps. Yeah, no, very, very lucky, but obviously not really helped him as he's sat in the pit lane at the moment with a damaged car again.
Yeah, and unfortunately starting all the way back as he was, it was always going to be a tough uphill struggle. So the only Hyundai looking to score well is Katzberg. Rob Huff from the back of the grid with a brand new engine really does not want to be calling into the pits with a problem, because if he has to change that engine, then he's going to have a major problem for tomorrow in race 2 as well.
His race pace has been pretty good though, 48.6. I'd say that's pretty reasonable. Probably, just to give you an idea that the front runners are kind of running in 48.8. So Yeah, that's pretty ballpark, to be honest.
Yes, unfortunately, it looks like he might have set another quick race lap and scored no points as a result. And that's sort of been the story of Volkswagen's season. Looks like Benani and Air are going to score, but the 2012 World Touring Car Champion will be in Eurovision mode tonight, 0 points. So Ted Björk, Ivan Muller, Michael Ascona, from Andy Priaulx, Johan Kristoffersson and Mehdi Benani. There's Jean-Carl Vernet, a little bit on his own, just out of the top 10. And Katzberg, the top Dutchman, still trying to get by Belgium's Frederik Verwisch. Not sure what the Netherlands' odds are for the Eurovision Song Contest, but I don't think the odds of Katzberg finding a way through in the next couple of laps are that great. Verwisch should have good straight line speed. And we're on board here with Tom Coronel, aren't we? That looked like the back of an Audi, so that'll have been Niels Lagerfeld.
I really don't think that the Link & Co cars are pushing that hard. I think they're cantering. I mean, if you look at Björk last time around, you know, we've got 2 laps to go on a high tyre wear circuit, 48.9, best lap 48.8. Yeah. Same sort of story with Ivan, a couple of tenths difference. Then when we start to go down the field, drivers that I think are pushing, you know, they're best part of half a second off what they were doing earlier in this race. So that tells me that Link & Co probably got a little bit in their pocket in terms of pace. They're just controlling this.
Well, we look to the Cupras to see where their progression is. Michael Ascona in third, best race lap 48.7, and that was behind the 2 Link & Co's that are doing 48.8s as best laps, but he's at 49.1 now, which is limited by Ivan Muller. But his teammate Daniel Hagloff, best lap 48.6, last lap 48.6, that was his best lap. So they should be getting quicker, but maybe the extra weight of the Link & Co is just wearing their tyres a little more. I mean, it's a bigger car, it is heavier than some of the others, and so you expect it to go through tyres a little quicker. But certainly Hagloff on the last lap produced his fastest lap of the race, and there are still cars further down the field producing best sector times as well as best outright laps, not excluding the Hondas out of that. Definitely possible that Link & Co, they've got the race under control, and as long as Muller watches his mirrors, Ascona's not getting through, is he? So there is really no need to push either.
I agree.
On board with Nicky Katzberg. The battle for 9th place with Frederik Verwisch looking back from Fred's car. Come to You Racing thrilled last weekend with their first win of the season in Slovakia. A reformed or re-profiled team, if you like, because last year they ran 4 Audis. This year Come to You running 1 Audi team, and they're also running the 2 yellow Cupras. So you would think sort of fairly different engineering solutions. Imagine what tends to happen is you then get ideas that crop up from one car and you go, oh, I wonder if that would work on the other, and vice versa. Not sure how much transmission there is between the 2 sets of engineers. Jan Erlaché can't shake off Benjamin Leuchter's Golf any more than Andy Priaulx can shake off Johan Kristoffersson and Mehdi Benani, can he? It looks like the Golfs actually should be going quicker. They've all had better, fastest laps than the Link & Co's. They're all down in the 48.4s. The Link & Co's are all 48.8s. 48.9 for Erlaché. So the Golfs could go quicker. Imagine, actually, if we're looking at what they're doing now, we're going to qualifying tomorrow, we could have an all-Golf top 4, or possibly 3 if Rob's engine is not playing the way it should do. Girolami and Panis. And is that Panis going back into the points? No, he was in 14th, Girolami was in 15th, so Nesta got a good run on him in the Honda. Maybe pulled alongside on the straight. We didn't see the beginning of that, only saw the end of it. Panis holding on to the position, defending 14th. He's got Daniel Hagloff just up the road in front of him. The gap is growing.
If you don't make a mistake, it's quite easy to maintain your position around here. It's one of the easiest circuits to defend from.
Having said that, Prio's just lost another spot. By him has gone Johan Kristoffersen. We didn't see the move, but there's no question there's a Gulf in fourth. So Muller in second, last lap of the race. And that would be particularly galling for Prio, because losing a position's one thing, losing a position on the last lap is entirely a different thing. That's why Ascona is pushing so hard behind Ivan.
Commentators curse of saying how easy it is to defend around here as a three-time world champion gets overtaken.
Don't worry, I'll send Andy a message. We'll throw you under the bus for that one. Down into the S's. It's still a 1-2 for Sign Racing Lincoln Co. Ted Björk heading towards victory, his second of the season. Ivan Muller in second place behind him.
Ted Björk's ability to win races is never in doubt. He obviously won the WTCC in his last year in 2017.
Yeah.
But you know, I think he won more races than anyone last year, but didn't build a championship out of it. And that's what Ted's got to do now. But a very convincing win for Lincoln Co.
And he left Ivan Muller to deal with Mikel Ascona in the final lap. It is a 1-2 for Lincoln Co. Mikel Ascona, another podium for him and PWR. Johan Kristoffersen fourth, and that is the best Volkswagen result of the season. Is it? Or am I talking rubbish? What's Rob Huff done? Yes, that is the best Volkswagen result of the season. Fifth place for Andy Prio, his best result of the season. Sixth place for Mehdi Banani. Bearing in mind, Andy Prio might be disappointed not to be third. Last weekend, all of his results started with a 20 in front of the number, not fifth position.
Good. Thank you, John, mate. You've done me proud. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Good job. Car was great. So, big thank you. Nice win.
Car was great, and so was Ted. Winner of race 3 in Marrakesh, of course. And he claims his first win, a win in race 1 in the Netherlands. And there's the move around the outside. Andy Prio did not make it easy for Johan Kristoffersen, did he? But Kristoffersen had a real slingshot as they climbed out of Hugenholtz through the Hunsrück, over the brow, and through he went into Slottermacher. Really good pass. And I don't doubt that he caught Andy Prio just a little by surprise with the acceleration of the Golf. Ivan Muller, another podium result for the Frenchman. He's in second place in the 1-2 for Sign Racing Lincoln Co.
Good job, Ivan. Good job. P2. We already knew that the Seat was much lighter than us. We will struggle at the end of the race, but very good job.
Well done, boys. Good job. You deserve after the hard weekend we had in Slovakia. Well done. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. You need to come back to the pit lane, not the paddock, the pit lane.
Yeah, that's where Alex Leguy is. The cars are not garaged in the pit lane. They are in a well, Parc Fermé, and the paddock is around the back of the pits. There you go. They can see them all heading in there. So let's hope they told him that on the slowing down lap and he actually went into the pit lane. Looks like they may not have done, because there was at least one Sign company car, one Sign racing car heading round past the marshals there. So Ted Björk, Ivan Muller, Mikel Ascona heading towards the pit lane, and our top 3 podium. Johan Kristoffersen, Andy Prio, Mehdi Banani completing the top 6. Jan Ehrlichey went from 10th to 7th. Benny Leuchter went from, where was he on the grid? 5th position down to 8th. And 9th place, Frederick Verbisch ahead of Nicky Katzberg. So the points continue on through Jean-Carl Vernet's Audi, Esteban Guerrieri, the best Honda in 12th place, Daniel Hegloff, Aurelian Panis in their Cupras in 13th and 14th, and Nestor Girolami in his Honda in 15th. And again, Richard Coleman, the only 2 Hondas that score are Munich Motorsport. They are just doing such a good job. When they've got a car that can win, they win. When they haven't got a car that can win, they're picking up points.
They certainly are, and I think you know, these are the weekends that make a big difference. The BOP is not with the Honda. They've just come off some really strong results, and this is therefore a nickel and dime weekend for those guys. But it's the nickel and dime points that make a big difference at the end of the year. So those guys are both still at the top of the championship but the Lincoln Co car's closing right back up. I think they've swapped positions now. Guerrieri leads the championship with picking up a few points for 12th place. But yeah, it's the nickel and dime points that make a championship, not necessarily just your race wins.
And Mikel Ascona, with his third position, will move up from 7th, ahead of Gabriele Tarquini and right up behind Norbert Michelis. So Jean-Carl Vernet from 6th gains points, Ted Björk from 5th gains points, Tarquini gets a big fat 0, Norby gets a big fat 0. They were 4th and 3rd, so they will, I'm not sure that Norby will drop all the way down, but Gabriele will. You saw Ronnie Hartfeld there chatting with Ted Björk.
He's obviously standing in for
Phil Barker yeah.
this weekend. Yeah, Ron out of race engineering retirement, it seems.
Back off the bench and not doing a bad job. First race with Ted and they've got a win. Of course, Phil Barker was engineering him in Marrakesh when he got the win there. And Mikel Ascona, another podium finish. This young Spaniard, last year's TCR Europe champion. And, you know, with him, with Daniel Hegloff and PWR, that big step up onto the world stage has proved entirely manageable, and they have really taken it in their stride. Well, let's get down and hear from our top 3.
The 2017 World Touring Car Champion is back on the top step. Ted, that was an easy win for you.
Yeah, but it looks so easy when you start in the front, but there's a lot of pressure going on and you have to get it right to correct the start and everything. But yes, it was a fantastic race and I feel so good. My family is here watching, little boy and my wife, and my daughter is watching at home, I'm sure. So it's so fantastic, you know, to feel everything and the atmosphere and bounce back with the victory.
The lack of power obviously didn't make that much difference for you.
No, it doesn't. It's not that. It's like, yeah, we're not going to go into that. But tomorrow, again, qualifying and race again. But for today, it feels so good just bouncing back. And the team just made a great job coming back from last event. How
aware were you behind? I mean, Muller was being put under quite a lot of pressure from Mikel.
Yeah, I saw that. And I tried to go. But, you know, it's hard on the tires, this track. It's quite groovy. So I had to keep my pace, just try to get the distance, and then I started to feel that I got a little bit, in the end. I don't know how many laps it was left, but Ivan did a fantastic job, and I'm happy when he stays behind because he's such a tough driver. So, but I would do that. We have a lot of respect, and that's also why we get the car fast again.
Well done, Ted.
Yeah, well done indeed. It's never easy to win races, no matter how much it looks like, in the words of Mario Andretti, a monkey could win in this thing. It's painted to the road. And Ted Björk now moves up to 3rd in the championship. He is 10 points behind the new leader, Esteban Guerrieri. Well, we'll catch up with the full ramifications. Shouldn't choose words like that, should I? Of the championship points in just a few moments. But Esteban Guerrieri, as of now, is our new points leader because he outscored teammate Nestor Girolami. They're only 2 points apart, and he outscored him by 3 spots. So he is now 3 points to the better and 1 point in front of the championship. Björk is 10 behind. Norby still 25 points behind in 4th place, so he didn't really plummet. Mikel Ascona moves up to 5th ahead of Gabriele Tarquini. Ascona just 28 points off the lead. Now, if you were the engineer or the team boss of PWR, would you be pinching yourself wondering if it could really be that straightforward? I mean, they have done a really good job. They knew the car, they didn't know the circuits, they've got a new driver. It's all gelling really well.
Teams are the same as drivers as far as that goes. You know, winning breeds confidence and confidence breeds winning. So, you know, I think that, those guys have been on a steep learning curve, but they've shown time again in all the races so far this year that they can do it, and they've just got to keep doing what they're doing and taking each race as it comes. Yep. Of course, slightly flattered perhaps sometimes that it seems to be one car that's up there, and therefore perhaps they get away a little bit more with the BOP, but they've just got to keep doing what they're doing. Well,
they're definitely making a great stab of it with the Cupra. It's been competitive. This car's been more competitive than it was last year, it would seem. And Aurelian Panis actually just a point now behind Daniel Hagloff, or 1 spot behind him in the points. So Panis and Coronel and the Come2 team starting to really get their head around the car as well. And for Panis, having a car that's competitive for the first time, basically in his World Touring Car career, is actually a real big bonus for him. So nice for Ted to have his family with him. For them, a little bit of time on the beach now before tea time. So if we talk about it being a family atmosphere, it's not just the drivers and teams who are part of the family, but the families make it a real family as well. A hazy Saturday afternoon by the seashore in Zandvoort in the Netherlands after the first race of the weekend. Race 1 in Zandvoort, and a great start from Ted Björk and Ivan Muller from the front row to dominate the run down to the first corner for Link & Co. Andy Prio was not so fast away, beaten to the draw by Mikel Ascona, who slotted into third as the Golfs put pressure on Prio behind. Both Volkswagens of Johan Kristoffersson and Mehdi Banani looking strong, but none stronger than Ascona, pushing Ivan Muller, a four-time world champion, to hurry up or get out of the way. Getting out of the way was not part of Muller's plan. Link & Co wanted this podium and needed it badly. A slight reduction in power after their dominating qualifying performance saw them on a more even keel with their rivals, battling with the Volkswagens, the Audis, the Hyundais and the Cupras. But in the end, Ted Björk and Ivan Muller stayed away, leaving teammates Prio and Erlache to deal with the opposition. Ascona never gave up to the checkered flag. He was trying to find a way past Muller, with a couple of others hitting problems during the races, including the dominant Alphas from a week earlier. Kristoffersson finally pounced on Prio for fourth place on the final lap, but there was no stopping Ted Björk as he raced to a Link & Co 1-2 and to his second win of the season. Mikel Ascona and PWR Racing again on the podium, the best of the rest.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium of our first race here, Circuit Zandvoort of the FIA World Touring Car Cup by Oscaro. Please welcome onto the podium in third position from PWR Racing, it's Mikel Ascona. Please welcome onto the podium in second position from Cyan Racing Link & Co, it's Ivan Muller. And your winner from Cyan Racing Link & Co is Ted Björk and his son Tor. And representing the winning team, Cyan Racing Link & Co, is Norton Blood. And now the national anthem for both Ted Björk and Cyan Racing Link & Co.
So Swedish anthem for Cyan Racing and Ted Björk. Ted and Tor Björk, obviously. I like Tor's coordinating daddy helmet colours on his
and
ear
now
defenders.
the trophies. Presenting the third position trophy to PWR Racing's Mikael Ascona is Chief Sporting Officer of Circuit Zandvoort, Eric Vyers. The Chief Executive Officer of Circuit Zandvoort, Robert van Overdijk, will present to Cyan Racing Lincoln Co.'s second position, Ivan Muller. Eric Vyers, Chief Sporting Officer of Circuit Zandvoort, will now present the winning trophy to Cyan Racing Lincoln Co.'s Ted Björk. And Robert van Overdijk, once again, please present the winning team trophy to Cyan Racing Lincoln Co.'s Norton Blad. Now please come together for your official photographs. Grab your bottles. Let's party.
Little premature, I think. Never start the drinking before you're halfway through the songs. That's what I say. Mikael Ascona celebrates his third podium of the season, and Ted Björk his second win. And somebody at Lincoln Co. PR needs to put some Lincoln Co. stickers over those Polestar ones on Tor's ear defenders. So race one done and dusted from the Netherlands. We are back with qualifying, with our three-part qualifying on Sunday morning, bright and early, and then races 2 and 3. And for now, Munich Motorsport still with the lead of Cyan Racing Lincoln Co. Cyan Racing Lincoln Co. 1-2. The other Cyan Racing team with Andy Prio and Jan Elish a little further down the order didn't score quite as strongly, and Hyundai N Squadra Corsa yet to quite break the 200-point margin, so they're now 55 points behind Munich Motorsport. And of course, they were last year's champion team with Ivan Muller Racing, and it looks to me rather as though there might be some top single-seater action coming up for the crowd. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, for qualifying.
Without them, without it.
Where is it? Where is it? Yeah?